Hello, this is the Mediterranean, and a few thousand kilometers southeast from here, from the north of Spain, somebody's ashes were scattered into the sea. And this video is about this guy who was cremated and a woman who wrote a book about his life. And yeah, so this is. I'm talking about Eichmann in Jerusalem from Hannah Arendt, 1962, I believe, and why it's still interesting to know nowadays about it. So, a few months ago, Joe Spivey made a read along about parts of the book, and I thought, like, okay, now it's time to pick it up because for a long time I heard about Hannah Arendt, but often only in a kind of negative connection and. Yeah, but I had her on my list because she was brought up over and over again, and so I picked up this book as well. So she was born in 1906 in Königsberg, back then in the Kaiserreich, in the second Kaiserreich in Germany. Came from a quite well-off family. Started an academic career. Worked or met Heidegger. Her doctor father was Karl Jaspers. I have no idea what he did, but maybe one day I will check him out as well. And later on, so basically she was living in Weimar, Germany. Started her career there. Then, of course, the Nazis came up, and she was critical about them, and she saw, she either goes or she goes down the same route like some of her fellow people which were imprisoned and persecuted, and of course she didn't want it. So she went to France, helped to emigrate Jews to Palestine. Back then she was a Zionist. And then in 41, I think, 40, she fled to Portugal. Managed to get on a ship to the United States, and from there on worked more or less freelance on her own, because she didn't want to tie herself to an institute, and it gave her a bit more flexibility, what to do, what to say, and how to kind of orchestrate her life. So then in the 60s, so she wrote about totalitarianism. Those are kind of some of her most famous works. She also wrote one about friendship, which I want to check out. And then in the 60s, she was asked if she would go along to the trial of Eichmann, who was captured in Argentina. And she was interested. She went to Jerusalem for several times to follow the trial, but most of the trial she followed from the kind of court proceedings and from the script from the write-down, which was done of everything. She also read the assassin interview, which is quite important kind of when you assess nowadays Eichmann's life and if Hannah Arendt got him wrong or not. And so who's Eichmann? Eichmann was born in Austria. His life didn't start too well. He started a couple of careers but never succeeded anywhere. And then in the late 20s, 30s, early 30s, he was asked by a friend to join the SS. And he kind of committed then from this point onwards, and then of course the surge came, and he had like a low level, not too influential part in the SS, but then later on, so first he worked on the what's just slipped my tongue. I have to write down what he worked on first, just some smaller stuff. But then he picked up the Jewish things. He kind of praised himself that he read 1 or 2 books about it, so it's not really an achievement, but yeah, that's what he did. And then he was involved in the 3 stages of the extermination of the Jews in Europe. First, he tried to expel them. He was quite successful in it in Austria. Then he kind of climbed up the ranks. He shipped lots of Jews from Central Europe to Eastern Europe to the ghettos, and then later on he was involved in shipping the Jews to the extermination camps. And he quite well knew what was happening there. He went on a few trips to the east to look at the proceedings, what happened, and he couldn't stomach it like most people who don't have to do anything with the cruelty of killing others. But it never bothered him to stop his job because I think he didn't claim too much that he was forced into it, but basically he went along with this whole line, the Jews are bad, and once they're gone, things will be better. Of course, conspiracy theories were a big thing back then, and just like nowadays, they're not gone. Okay, so in part, when he was captured by Mossad, he didn't resist. He cooperated for pretty much all the trial. Of course, he pleaded not guilty in the sense of the indictment, but he said on a few occasions that it's better that he gets put to death or he gets tried, because the new generation shouldn't be blamed for all the stuff he and his companions did. If you look up more about him on YouTube, so there's a big read-along of Eichmann in Jerusalem from the Hannah Arendt Center. In there you also can find some really heated debates, what Hannah meant or she didn't meant. Quite interesting to see some people talk about the bubble and not being able to to see things more like how they are, but more to stick to their script and try to imagine the world in a different way than it is. There's also a fellow who pointed everything towards the Palestinians and the how I don't want to say the evil or the badness of the situation, and so there's lots of stuff to look at to get more information. There's also one video which pops up over and over again of some mistreatment of Eichmann, but all the trial footage is on YouTube, so if you can stomach tens or even hundreds of hours of court proceedings translated back and forth, you can have a look there as well. And Eichmann also was interviewed extensively during his imprisonment, and he also signed off the script. And there he never appeared to be under any strain or harassment or in a desperate situation. So I think he was treated more than fairly for what he did. Okay, so the book is structured in a way that it talks first about who Eichmann is, how the court came together. Then it goes through all the different stages of the plight of the Jewish people in the 30s and 40s in Europe, which of course ends with a list going through all the countries, how people fared there. And one thing where Eichmann tried to exceed his given orders when he still shipped hundreds of thousands of Jews from Hungary to Auschwitz, even though he had orders to not to do this. So even when Himmler told him kind of to stop those things, he couldn't, kind of look to the left or right to adjust his behavior. So then basically, and Arendt gives a kind of a conclusion, kind of her take on the proceedings and on the judgment. Later on, there's also epilogue and the postscript after the book received lots and lots of criticisms. Some of the biggest criticisms she received for the book was that she was way too sympathetic to Eichmann, because when the proceeding started, everybody imagined a raving Nazi being in court, but Eichmann was a bureaucrat, and he was not too skillfully expressing himself. Some people say that he put on a show, and Arendt kind of couldn't look through it, but it's hard to say. Now afterwards, I looked at some of the footage. Kind of, he looks consistent, but also there's like the charlatan of Hess, which also played like a big a big show in the Nuremberg trials, where he played kind of half insane, but afterwards he said like, I played it all along for many months. So we don't know. Then also Arendt points out, is a trial when the verdict before it is already clear? She fully supports that the death sentence. Some people say that she doesn't, but those are often the people who haven't read the book. Also, the jurisdiction is at least pointed out, I would say, not overly questioned. Of course, in Jerusalem, the focus was on the Jewish people, but of course also 6 million of other civilians died in Central and Eastern Europe, and they never had a kind of dedicated trial. They were just kind of a byproduct of the war and of the general extermination policy of the Nazis towards mainly Slavic people, but also towards the Mediterranean. Once the Italians flipped, the Germans were also very harsh there, and they didn't care how many tens or hundred thousands people died there. Also, like in the Netherlands, they didn't care that so many people died there in the Hunger Winter of 44. So they were not only against Jews, but pretty much anybody who wasn't them. And when it was inconvenient for them to keep them alive or to look after different populations. So, and that's why some people say like it should be more like an international court trialing Eichmann. But of course, when he was captured, the Germans didn't want to have to do anything with him, because in Germany, a lot of people who fully participated in the war of extermination in Europe, they had the chance, or kind of it was looked to the other side, whichever things they did during the Nazi times. Of course, there are some trials, but often the sentencing was very lenient, and later there were amnesties given, and internationally, at least from general people, it wasn't understood. But of course, politically, that's how the power game goes. You change your uniform and your flag, and once in power, for a long time in power, unfortunately. Then the biggest criticism Arendt receives, she also talks about the Jew councils, basically those people who were managing the ghettos and helped to get the people onto the trains. Eichmann was very skilled working with those people together. He even managed to help one guy he worked closely together for many years, to give him a better position for some time in Auschwitz. But of course, they couldn't stand it, the commandants there or the guards there, and they shot the guy shortly afterwards, because nobody was allowed to have an easy life as a Jew in a concentration camp. And also, that's kind of my criticism. There she wrote that Eichmann never had any pushback during his time. What he did, that this is wrong. I think he definitely had pushbacks, but yeah, he just didn't listen to it. And of course, back then it was a revelation that not the Nazis themselves, but they worked together with the Jews. They tricked them and many other populations to bring them to their demise. Of course, the whole killing machine was operated not by Germans; it was overseen by Germans, but they were they pressed other people into the jobs of actually doing the cleanup of the killings. I think the killing was done by the German administering the poison gas, but everything else was done by non-Germans, and of course some Jews were implicated as well. A few years ago, I think 2016, Stengeth wrote a book, Eichmann Before Jerusalem, where she points out Eichmann was a raving Nazi, and Hannah Arendt's views are in this aspect wrong. And it's still sort of debated if Arendt got him wrong, if he played his role. But the overall facts are clear that she supported the trial. She found it just or correct that he was killed, and for his deeds. And and what I can see after reading many other books about the Nazi German time in Europe, the facts she states, they're still they stand nowadays. So she didn't embellish anything. She looked into the sources. There's also some criticism about I forgot. Somebody was publishing a book about the Holocaust. She proofread it or had the guy who read it. She used the sources, but then didn't credit the guy properly after publishing. But I think in the postscript she does this as well. But of course, there were some knock-on effects of this trial. So, because it's from a psychology point of view, often victims are silenced about what happened to them, and this trial helped a lot of Jews in Jerusalem or in Israel and throughout the world to start talking about the very dark past, to deal with this trauma openly, and to pass on this knowledge to the next generation. And also in Germany, a few more trials were done, which was quite good because they were overdue, and all this led, of course, into the 68 uproar amongst the younger generation in America and in Europe. And that's basically everything in the first glimpse of this book. I might do a deeper dive into the book, but for now, that's this, and thank you, and until next time.